And I don't put music on the video, so you can play your own music in the background while you're watching this as well to really get you in the mood and get you in the vibe. Hey, my beautiful polar bears. So today we are going to be going over some old school exotic movements, a little bit of flow, a little bit of sequence, and we'll start with a little warm-up. So before we get our heels on, we want to warm up the joints, be nice and loose. We'll start with a few shoulder rolls, rolling down and back. Now as we do these, we want to push to the maximum, up, back, down, and forward. As we roll through, once you've done a few, you can start loosening up your knees and adding a little bit of a bounce into the movement, like so, and then coming forward, the same thing. Feel those shoulders. If you really want to focus on the shoulders, you can forget about the legs and just focus on those big circles, and then add a little bounce in your movement. Next, the head. We're going to tuck our chin down and then look up, in, and up. Couple more. And then looking right to left. And gentle rolls just in the front of the body from one side to the other. And you can do the same thing in the back, but careful not to go too far back. So we just kind of tilt our neck a little bit. I don't want to go all the way back like this. It could be straining on the neck. So just little circles when we do the back. Good. All right, from here, our chest, we're going to lift forward and center. Lift and drop. So from the side, my back is neutral, my knees are slightly bent, hips can be tucked slightly forward. I lift my chest like a string is pulling up, and then I release. Lift, release. Then side to side. Pull your chest to the right, pull and slide to the left. Right, left. If you can, while you're doing this, try to keep your head and your hips as stable as possible, so the movement is really just coming from the chest area as much as you can. Okay, and let's do the same thing forward, and then all the way in and back. Forward, all the way in and back. So now I'm rounding my back as I pull back, and pushing up as I come forward. We're going to connect these dots. Straight, up, to the right, in, to the left. Up, to the right, in, to the left. And then connect those dots to smooth it out into a circle. Let's go the other way. Up, to the left, in, to the right. Up, left, in, right, and again, smooth it out with circles. Good. Always nice to reset with a nice shoulder roll back. From here, we're going to twist in our core, lifting our heel to one side and then to the other. Good. Let's add a reach to the side. Following our breath. Excellent. Hands on the knees, get nice and low, and we're going to turn our shoulders in as we look behind us. And the other side. Go back and forth a few times. Trying to go a little bit deeper every time. Hands come to the ground. Looking forward, then I'm going to lift my legs as I look down. And back here. Good. Slowly bring it up. For the hips, we're going to circle. So you can grab onto your pole if you like. Open up and circle out. If you want, you can add in the arm, following those circular movements with your leg. And now let's reverse, coming in from the outside and in. And again, if we want to add our arm, and down. Good, switch to the other side. Same thing, hip circles. Feel free to add your arm when you're ready. And the other way, in and open. Good. From here, we're gonna grab up high. Start to strengthen up our back and shoulders. We always wanna be using our big muscles, our abs, and our back when we're doing anything kind of pulling or holding our weight. And this also helps to keep our shoulders down and back so that we don't end up in this kind of posture where we're blocking our chin, blocking our neck. We always want to be chest lifted, abs engaged. Hips can be slightly back as long as our core is really, really tight. This is super important. So we're going to grab nice and high while being on our heels, and my arms are fully extended. From here, I'm going to pull through my back and crush my shoulder blades and then release. Exhaling as I pull up. Notice how my elbows do not bend at all. It's all coming through the shoulders and the back. And then we're going to switch our hands, switch to the other hand up, and do a few more. Exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Excellent. The last thing we're going to do is going to be for our abs. We're going to strengthen the core and our obliques. So we'll start right here next to our pole, shoulders down, chest lifted, and we're going to lift our knees up to our chest. So from this position, knees come up and down. If you like, you can step down after each time. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you can extend your legs. So as I come up, extend, come down is another option. Finally, for our obliques, we're going to step one foot right against the pole, other leg with our knee to grip. And I'm here, I'm solid. Hips are forward, pushing with that bottom foot into the pole. We're going to go down and come up. Exhaling on the way up. And just a few on the other side. Press with your foot against the pole. Bring, not the heel. Bring the other leg on, push those hips forward. You can also grab the ankle if you like and just kind of hang out here if it feels like too much to do the thing. Or if you want to make it harder, you can bring the hands up towards your head or on the hips is easier. Woo! All right, so as I mentioned, this is an old school exotic little tutorial. So we're going to be going over some fundamental movements that are good for any level, whether it's your first class or you're a long-time poler. It's always important to be drilling these movements and making them strong, and an important part of your practice to make your overall flow much smoother and more dynamic. Now, if you don't have heels, not a problem. You can do the same training in socks. We recommend something that can kind of glide. So barefoot might not be ideal because then it's not as smooth for gliding movements. We're going to start next to our pole and start with a super fundamental movement in all of pole dance, and that is the body roll. We do want to be pointing our toes the whole way through as we do this movement, and most of the time in general when we're doing exotic pole, depending, unless it's on purpose that we're trying to flex for different kinds of edge work. But for now, we want to keep our toes pointed. So when I point my toe, my weight is in the front of the foot and my heel is actually hovering off the ground. I'm going to stand with my feet close together, about a foot away from the pole, maybe a little bit closer, and holding on about chest level. My shoulders are down and back, and I want to keep this distance here, even when I lean back. So I want to come in leading with my head. Wherever my head goes, my body follows. My head is the leader of my spine. So this is something to keep in mind. Where we look, where our head goes, our body will follow. So holding on at chest level, I'm going to lead with my head, coming in close to the pole, and then leaning back my head. So as I come in, my head comes in first, chest comes in second, hips come in third. As I bring my chest forward, my head starts to tilt back. And as my hips come forward, my chest starts to tip back. Then I come all the way back, pull in my head, my chest, and my hips last. And again, coming forward, head, chest, hips, head, chest, hips. Notice how here in the back, I don't bring up my shoulders. We really want to focus on keeping our chest lifted. Even when I cave in my chest, my shoulders are still down. Now, I can play with this movement in many different ways. I can do big waves, small waves. Let's start with a very small, very slow wave to really get the movement down. So I'm going to start very small. Sitting back just a little bit. Head, chest, hips, head, chest, hips. And my knees, they will also bend as I go back and then extend as I push my hips back and come forward. Bend and extend. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Excellent. Okay, great. So now we're going to start adding a leg wave into our body wave. I can still hold on with both hands. I'm going to really focus on the area from my hip down my knee to my leg first, and then we'll add the body movement into it. So first thing I want to do is extend my leg, and we'll start actually with the leg fully extended to just practice the hip movement. So I'm going to push forward on my hip, then open my hip and pull back all the way. Now I'm going to squeeze my butt so that I can pull back further. Turn my hip in and down, pull in front of the pole. Open and out. Turn and in, open and out. Now, as I come close to the ground, I want to almost touch, but be hovering on the ground. Hover, open, hover, in. And we can start with a very slow and very small movement to start. Just here. Almost like a figure 8 with the hip. So it comes out, circles, come in. Circles, out, in. Open, and in. And then we can start to make it bigger. Extending more and more through the movement. Once you've kind of gotten the hang of this, we can start adding the body. So to add my body to it, I'm going to do that same feeling of coming in with my head, chest, hips, out with my head, chest, and hips. Now, as I do that, my leg will become an extension of that wave. So as I come in with my head, my leg goes back. As I pull back, my leg starts to come forward and opens again. As I come in, I go back. As I lean back, I go forward. And again, feel free to start very small. And then start to make it a little bit bigger and bigger. Now my grounded leg will alternate from being slightly bent to extending as I flow through the movement. And same thing with my extended leg. I can start adding a tiny bend in the knee if I'd like, optional, to add a little bit of feel into that area. So usually it's when I'm coming back in before I extend out. Not too much of a bend, just a little one. Excellent. Don't forget to try the other side. Same idea. You can start with just your leg. Open and in, open and in. Remember to point that toe. And then make it bigger. And then add in your body with smaller waves. And again, make it big. You can add that bent knee. Slow it down to focus on every moment, and then you can speed it up. Play with different speeds. Try it out in different ways. See what feels good for your body, how it's rolling. Just feel that head leading the movement, body following all the way down to your toes. It's important that we go over, of course, the basics of walking around the pole. So, for walking, we want to keep our inside hand nice and high, shoulder nice and low. You can walk in many different ways, but I'm going to give you a simple option, and then feel free to diverge and explore from there. I would like to start with my inside leg, and I want to be actually relatively close to the pole. I don't want my legs to be out far, because then it's difficult to get the momentum, angular momentum of going around the pole, right? When I walk, it just feels like I'm walking normally. But if I walk close to my pole, with my arm extended up, leaning slightly out this way, as I lean forward, there's a circular momentum that brings me around the pole. So feel that. Step nice and close, shoulders down, lean out. Your outside arm, you can start it even on your hip if you'd like. As you fall forward, feel how your body wants to take you around the pole. Now, if I was to do the same thing over here, it's a lot more unstable, a lot more wild, because I have so much distance from the pole. So, we're going to use that little bit of falling energy to start our walk. Careful with the shoulder, keep it nice and low, chest lifted, core tight, hand on the hip, outside hand. As I feel that weight coming forward, I'm going to step. Now for my step, I could lift my leg up and take a step, or I can drag the plateau of my shoe or my toe, the back of my toe, along the floor as I come into step. Personally, one walk that I really like is doing just that, dragging with the plateau, and then almost drawing a figure eight or the start of a figure eight before I take my next step. So as I fall, I drag and I step. Now my other leg falls behind. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag, come around my grounded foot, and then step. Drag and step. Drag and step. As I do this, my hand is going to slowly come down. That's normal. My pole is on static right now, so it's not spinning with me. As my hand starts to slide, I can always just re-grip, re-extend as part of my walk. So as I'm walking, optional to get expressive with that outside hand. I drag, I step, I drag, I step. Between one of my steps, I can re-grab and keep going. Or I can even do it as a flow in my movement without stopping. Now, switching direction is another great option as our arm is coming lower. As I walk, leading with my chest, my arm is getting a little bit low. I'd like to switch. I just grab with the other hand and I pivot on whichever leg that's grounded. Better to do it with your outside leg grounded, but it also works perfectly fine with the inside leg grounded. So it's really up to you, wherever you feel like in your movement, or you can even just go back and forth. So I'm walking, I pivot, I take a step, I pivot, and I can keep going like this all day and do a little tango. back and forth. So play with the walk. I mean, I can do a whole hour just on walking, but I just want to give a little taste, a little bit of flavor of comfortable ways to walk around the pole. Now you could easily lift the leg and even drag along your own calf as you walk for a little bit more intensity in your step. I would really recommend to do the walk very slow at first. Put on some nice slow music if you like. And I don't put music on the video, so you can play your own music in the background while you're watching this as well to really get you in the mood and get you in the vibe. Now, when you do your walk, go super slow, almost like a meditation. You want to feel your toes, feel your whole body sensations as you're moving. The more I rush, the faster I go, the less I'll be aware of. So it's really good to take the time, play slow music, and slow down your movements. This is good advice also for when you're freestyling. Yes, you can play fast music, you can do whatever you want, but it is helpful to slow it down and give us time to really feel our bodies, feel one body part at a time in our movement as we go. When we're doing our walk, focusing on the legs, then bringing our attention to the upper body is very important and helps us to strengthen this movement over time and then get creative with it. So let's do a simple spin down to the ground. The first thing we're going to do to practice this is work on our pirouettes. So the pirouette is a standing movement where we spin in place around ourselves. To do this movement, we're going to start standing next to the pole, taking a step with our inside leg and our inside hand nice and high. Whenever I refer to inside leg, inside hand, those are the ones that are closer to the pole. When I refer to outside hand, outside leg, or outside arm, outside leg, those are the ones that are further away from the pole for any given movement. So I'm going to start with my inside hand nice and high, gripping the pole. My shoulder is nice and low, chest is lifted, posture is always number one. We take a step on our inside leg, and then we're going to take another step on our outside leg. As I step on my outside leg, that's when I'm going to place my outside hand, thumb down, behind the pole. So what I mean is, I'm going to come here, rotate my thumb down, and then not go to this side, but rather this side of the pole. Okay, so if I'm facing the pole, my hand is like so, pressing right in front of where I can see. Nice and low is key for this movement. So my weight, as I said, ends up on my outside leg. My hand goes down nice and low. And the reason I don't want to be here is because as I spin through, my elbow will block me. If I'm nice and low, my shoulder can pass through the pole, which is what I want. So I step on the outside leg, hand goes nice and low, and I start to roll through. Now, as I roll through, my top hand needs to change grip. I'm going to release, keep contact only on my knuckles as I roll, 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 and re-grab. In doing so, I release my bottom hand. Let's do that again in slow motion. My weight is on my outside foot, thumb down, reach nice and low. Start to turn, inside leg, what was my inside leg will start to take off pressure, so it's very light, it could just be dragging. Start to go through. Now my top arm gets stuck. Take the thumb, release the fingers and the thumb. So all my fingers are now off. Then I roll along my knuckles, so I feel my knuckles on the back of the pole, and once my fingers have completely passed to the other side, I re-grab. My hand that was behind me can release. The reason why I say to keep contact with the knuckles is because I don't want to lose my pole. I want to always know where it is in space. If I'm going through and I just release like this, then I have to re-find where my pole is, or I have to look to see where my pole is. If I always keep that contact point along the knuckles as I release and re-grip, I never have to look for my pole again. So I come through, roll, re-grab. Let's try that in succession, walking around the pole. So, stepping with the inside leg, take a step. Step with the outside leg, place your bottom hand, knuckles, and step again. Second step, knuckles, and go through. Now notice how I'm starting to lift this leg higher and higher. Keep it low at first so you can feel grounded, but slowly you can bring it up, 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 and play with what kind of pirouette you want to do. So you can come all the way up, or you can keep it low. It's really up to you. Try this a few times, and then, of course, try it on the other side. Outside, inside leg steps, outside leg steps. Hand goes down, knuckles keep contact, and we come through. Now you can get expressive with your outside arm if you like, as you're doing your walk as well, taking it a little bit further to the next level, and then think about incorporating it into your movements. We did our pirouette. Now we're going to pirouette towards the ground. My hand is nice and high. Outside arm, option to be expressive, or just place it on the hip for now. Take a step on the inside leg. Take a step on the outside leg. Place your hands, start to roll through, and as you roll through, sink down. So now I'm low to the ground. I can go on my knees if I'd like, or I can stay at this level and play with coming back up, for example. So let's try that. Just a quick down and up. Slide down, come back up. And our feet can stay grounded. Of course, if you want, you can drop all the way to your knees if you'd like, and then step back up from there as well. So, arm nice and high, hand on the hip. Step one, step two, go through. As I roll, sink it down. Peek over your shoulder, extend slightly the knee on the inside leg. Then, as I push up, I can lean forward and head flip to come up, and then drag in that back foot. Let's try that again. Step one, step two, roll and sink it down. Bring out the knee, extend the booty up, head flip to come up. Now this hand that's on the pole, when I'm nice and low, I'm going to use it to push against the pole, and my other hand I can drag along my leg that's grounded. So I come, I pull, and then I push to come up. Let's try that one more time. Walking, take a step, inside leg, outside leg, pirouette. Come down, look over the shoulder, extend out, lean forward, and come up. So I bring my butt up first, and then a nice head flip before we body roll it up. Let's try just that movement. So if I'm here next to the pole, down, nice and low, I'm going to extend by leaning forward. Then I'm going to bring my head up and keep a straight back. And from here, head leads, comes up, my arm can drag on my leg, chest comes forward, hips come forward, and I come back to neutral. Let's try that one more time. Outside leg, inside leg, come through, get low. Step, up, head, and we're back. So from here, we're going to talk about another little movement that's very important in all of exotic, and that's knee rotation. So just as important as it is to have hip mobility and hip rotation and knee flexion and extension, we also want knee rotation. Now, it is a kind of an oxymoron because my knee itself doesn't actually rotate. It's not like my shoulder, and it's not like my hip that I can rotate and make circles with. But I can create an illusion of a knee rotation using my hip. And that's what we're going to do. So what I want is for my knee to turn in. To do that, I turn my hip. I pull from my hip to turn my knee in. If I want to open my knee to the outside, that also comes from my hip. So by opening my hip, my knee goes out. By closing my hip, my knee comes in. We're going to use this to do circular movements from the knee while standing. If I stand with my feet together, this could be a good place to start. I'm going to spread my arms. Now, I could be in a split grip with the bottom hand in an L shape, pressing my finger against the pole and gripping around with the other fingers. Top arm can be extended, or I can just be here with a regular grip. It's up to you. See what feels good in the moment. So I'm going to come in my split grip. My top arm can be slightly bent, and I want to feel like I'm holding myself. So I'm going to pull through my top arm, through my back, pulling my shoulder blade into my back pocket, and I'm going to push with my bottom arm. Still trying to keep my chest lifted, squeezing my back muscles together. From here, I'm going to bring my foot slightly behind my other foot. So I'm going to take my right foot, place it behind the left. This gives me room to do my circle. From here, I'm going to lift as I open my hip, keeping my toe pointed, start to close my hip at the top, and then bring my foot down. When I reach the bottom, I come back to neutral. Let's repeat that. Up, open the hip, close the hip at the top, complete the circle to neutral. Start it very slow, and over time, add a little bit more speed, but really try to feel that full extension to draw a nice circle all the way around. Really feel the hip fully open, fully closed as we go through this movement. Let's try the other leg. Switch hands. Start foot to foot. Chest up, abs engaged. From here, slightly back with the left leg. Bend. Big circle open. And back to neutral. Bend. Big circle. And back. Now, we can add these two movements together and do like a 1, 2. From here, I'm back. I'm in position. I open one, step in front. Open the other. And I can step to the side. This is a good transition movement. So let's try that again. So a little bit of distance from the pole. Circle, step, circle, step. We can use this to create a tango walk from one side to the other as well, by just rotating the grounded leg as we do it. So I'm here. I can circle, turn, step, circle, turn, step. So now we've changed the movement a little bit. Play with these different options. So the leg circles that we did, we can actually take them in reverse as well. One more thing I want to go through before we finish up is going to require a bit of strength. So let's try our split grip before we go into it. Split grip, grabbing nice and strong with our top arm, pressing with that L shape on the bottom arm. So I'm pulling through the top, pushing through the bottom. Here and here. And I want to hover in this position. So let's try to lift our legs up. We can start going from one leg to the other, to the other. And then once you're comfortable with that, see if you can lift both legs at the same time. Coming into our split grip, placing one leg behind the other. What we're going to do is we're going to open our legs out to the side, switch, and bring them back. Open out to the side, switch, and bring them back. So the leg that's in front and the leg that's behind will be alternating. Start with a cross-legged position. Hold yourself nice and strong. Open the legs to the side and switch. Open to the side and switch. Try that out a few times. Starting cross-legged, open, in, open, in. So one leg back, one leg forward. We open to the sides, and we come down. Open to the sides, and down. Another option could be to follow a circular movement with our second leg. So again, starting here, I can start coming up and over, but as I come up, I'm going to follow through with my other leg and switch. So I come up and land, come up and land through. Take the time, play with these movements. We went through a lot today, from leg waves, body waves, pirouettes, getting low, coming back up, head flips, and of course, rotations in our hips that lead to circular movements from the knees. Always keep the knees together when you're doing this guy. Very important to give a nicer look. So now let's take everything that we did today and put it into a little flow to make it easier to practice. Feel free to play any music you like and flow along with me. We're going to stand next to the pole, facing it, starting with 2 body waves, leading into 2 big waves with our outside leg, or the one closer to the camera or your audience. So up on the toes, head comes in, chest, hips, back, and one more. From here we extend, and one more. Step. As we step, right away I'm going to place my hand, come for my pirouette, step, step, second pirouette, to the ground, step forward, come up. From here, back to the audience, circle 1, circle 2, 3, face, lift your grip, out, and down to finish. Let's do that again. Thank you so much for joining me for this old school exotic tutorial. We went through a lot of different movements that you can feel free to add into your flow, into your choreographies, or just when you're freestyling and dancing. It's really important to slow it down, feel out the movements, and then play with your tempo. Go a little bit faster, a little bit slower. This will allow for a much more well-rounded dancing experience and bring a smoothness into your flow versus just speeding through all the time where we can't be aware of our individual body parts in the flow and in the movement. So we're going to finish up with a little cool down, a little stretch. Take off your boots and meet me back at the pole. All right, feet in nice and close, hands about chest level. We're going to lean back, extending our arms, pushing our butt back. Take a few deep breaths. Pull back in and lean back. Slowly bringing yourself back up. Let's get down close to the ground, dropping our head, bending our knees. Slowly bring it up. From here, we're going to bring one hand behind our head, pulling down on the elbow. Alternate to the other side. Head nice and tall. And release. From here, we'll do a few deep breaths. Exhaling to come down. Roll it up. Good. Pulling down on the fingers. Push the toes down into the ground. Chest lifted, shoulders pulling down. Same thing on the other side. Perfect. Coming back to the full for a side stretch. Feet in close. Push the hips out, reach up. You can look up to the ceiling in front of your elbow. Switch to the other side. Hips out. Nice side stretch. Perfect. From here, interlock your fingers behind your back. Spread the legs a little bit and hinge forward, pulling our arms up. Release the fingers, grab your opposite elbow, and just do a gentle rock from right to left. Slowly roll up. And we'll finish up with a little neck stretch. Gentle pressure on the head, keeping our shoulders low. Outside arm pushes down. You can relax your knees here and tuck the hips forward. Gently come back to the center, tilting the head to the other side. Very light pressure. Shoulders are low, press down. Excellent work, my little polar bears. Give yourselves a big hug, and we'll catch you next time. Bye. Take a step on my outside leg. Go for my pirouette. Now, as I go through, I'm going to come down to my knee. Woo! Hot. Oh, my God. And I burn myself on this hot floor. Ah. Okay, let's not do that.